With over 5,695 individual mods, this opens Pandora's box into experiencing Starfield however you would want to. And other than the creation, by far the biggest, most important update Starfield will ever get is also coming out at the same time Shattered Space is, covered extensively in this video. Check up on the right hand side to get the lowdown. The main takeaway from that is, unlike many of the other Bethesda games, the mod limit or the mod soft cap preventing you from getting over like 100 different mods will be removed. So now we can have unlimited mod potential, more or less up to 4,000 or more mods, putting Starfield in a truly unique position, making it one of the most moddable Bethesda games of all time, but also its easiest without having to go through all the various loopholes you have to with some of the previous titles. Now let's move on to prepping your saved game, your modded save game. Now just a big disclaimer before we get into preparations for your saved games. When it comes to updates or DLCs, there is no way for us to tell how big of an impact in terms of what mods will work and what will break. However, since Steam now releases updates to a lower environment in the beta environment, allowing the modders to go in, suss out and see if they work, there's no guarantee that they do that. It can also create a lot more work because there may be further changes to that release that will then cause them to double up on their work. So sometimes it may make more sense just to wait till it comes to being live. But when it comes to DLC specifically, it is a huge gamble. So take all of this with a grain of salt. However, there are certainly some steps we can take to help mitigate a lot of these issues, excluding PC users using Mod Organizer 2 or Nexus, but we'll go into that in a bit more detail. So with that in mind, all we can do is be on the side of caution and try prepare things a certain way to help mitigate some of the possible issues if we do just want to rush in on a modded save. However, there is a really good chance for Xbox and PC users that only use creation that there might be a fair chunk of mods that should work fine from the get-go. There'll be some you should exclude or consider disabling, at least initially, or to do some testing. But anyway, we're going to go through all this. Definitely let me know in the comments your thoughts, your suggestions on how you approach updates and DLCs when you're trying to prepare your modded save. How will Shattered Space affect modded saves? So when I say modded saves, I mean people that have been playing Starfield and have a fair few mods installed on their main character. There's two determining factors. If you're on PC and using mod managers, particularly the SFSE, pretty much all mods will break that are launched through those third-party mod managers due to the sheer dependency of all related SFSE core mods will be required to be updated. We don't know how quick the update will be this time, generally anywhere from 1 to 3 days. So for PC users with heavily modded saves, many people in this scenario will just wait and not get into Shattered Space on that particular character until after we get all the core updates to the mods. And there's many reasons you wouldn't use that save. It will break all your modded ships, all the modded components will become invisible, and I don't believe you can get around that once it's saved into the save file. You would have to jump backwards to your baseline. So by all means, if you want to jump into Shattered Space, get a taste of it, wait for the mods to update, and then lose all those progress and come back to your baseline save, you could certainly do that. However, most people on PC will either use a baseline save, which tend to be unmodded, or in a state where it won't really matter what happens to it, because it's really hard to give any kind of recommendation on how to proceed otherwise, because it most likely will cause so many more issues with your save if you try to progress through Shattered Space without all your ship mods. However, if you do want to engage with the content as soon as possible, what you do is make sure you're in space, and if you have any modified ships, make sure you go and purchase a generic in-game vessel, then come back to orbit and make sure you're not in orbit around any kind of modded space station or any mod that exists that could cause a trip up. And also, just as important, make sure you unequipped all clothing, weapons, items to ensure there is no issues when all your mods are turned off. So for example, here is a modded gun. I would select a different gun, just a generic in-game gun. Same with my armor, jetpack, helmet, and any items as well. If you have any of them in the quick select menu, I would just remove them as well, just to make double sure. And again, we do really want to make sure it is a non-modded ship with no decorations from mods or anything on your vessel. And then I would save this game and try make this a baseline save so I can come back to it if anything goes wrong. Now do note, there is no sure way that we're going to know how big of an impact the new update and DLC Shattered Space will have. So just make sure you have a few backup saves. Also make sure if you have any heavily modified outpost with lots of objects from mods, where upon starting Starfield without any of these mods, I would never return to these locations, as that will most likely cause a game to crash, but you will run the risk of some of those items not functioning properly within the save. It is kind of rolling the dice if you have a heavily modified save game with none of the mods on and trying to continue. So the short of that super long story is, for PC players on Nexus or Mod Organizer 2, or if you're manually installing using SFSE, probably the best advice is just to wait until all the core mods are upgraded. For those that have heavily modded games, that would be my recommendation. However, there's really good ways to plan ahead so you can jump into the content straight away when DLCs. We'll cover that a bit later. However, when it comes to PC and Xbox and you're only using mods through the creation, there's a good chance that many of the mods will not be impacted by the DLC or the update that's coming. However, here is what I would do. First off, I create a baseline save. So for instance, one of my baseline saves is all the way down here. I know this is a stable modded save. So I can do all kinds of craziness, install all these different mods, have all these different issues. However, I can always come back to this baseline and recover my character or wherever I'm up to. So it's always good to have a baseline. A true baseline is always going to be a character that has never had any mods installed. And I also have a character for that scenario. For Xbox and PC users that only use creations, I would use a process of elimination. I don't know if the update all will be functional as a part of this release. I can't remember. So this might work, but I wouldn't start there. I would actually start with disable all creations. Then I would go in target and ensure I don't enable any of the heavy script altering mods, ones that change NPCs behavior, which we might find some in immersion, things potentially like the Star Wars alien mod. That's kind of where I would start with disabling some of these mods. The reason for that is sometimes with the updates or DLC, it can introduce new scripts that modify the existing NPC's behavior, AI routines. So script altering mods can cause a conflict, causing crashes. Even some of the quest mods I would avoid, or at least I would do the process of elimination. You want to start off with a very minimal load order. Now the big one would be, another catastrophe would be if they change some of the texture forms or mapping. If there was any kind of big change to the textures, that could cause a lot of problems for a lot of the suit mods, but I don't suspect that to happen. I think it's going to be pretty smooth. But again, just a heads up. Also big overhaul mods, in particular mods that add extra points of interest to locations or completely changes the biomes is another one I would consider turning off to start with, or at least checking for updates. However, they may not be impacted because the planet and system we're going to doesn't exist, but I imagine these could be a problem. But where the safety lies is in the Bethesda game studio. These mods should technically be safe. Technically, you should be able to use any of these. And I highly recommend if you want to go in level 1 and try access some of the new content, grab this mod here, the Starborn Gravis suit, the best suit in the game. The other thing that could really break as well is some of the companion mods, particularly these amazing mods like Swifty Auto Squad and Gangs All here, where you can have multiple companions. Those could be areas of contention. But really what we're trying to do is eliminate the big easy ones, changing environments, biomes, NPCs, quests, big overhaul mods. I'm hoping these ship mods are okay, but those could be another one you need to consider because we don't know yet if they've introduced new ship parts or not. If they have, that could be more reason to be cautious there. But in any case, we would start with a very minimal list and then try add them slowly, or if you know they've been updated, it's good to go. This is just for the Xbox and PC users with only creations. And just some good examples here. So Cosmic Growth I would have off. I think things touching New Atlantis is hopefully fine. Random creatures I would have that off as well. That would be a big one. Anything touching creatures, there's a good chance it won't have impact, but we just don't know. So I know there's no straight answer for this, and I will be doing a proper load order guide, which will go through this in more detail. But I did just want to provide something for you to kind of reference or get an idea of. But my protocol would be to disable all, pick the ones where you know shouldn't impact or have big global changes. But always remember, make sure you unequipped all your modded armor, change your ship to a generic ship or a non-modded ship, remove any items, change your vehicle to the default vehicle to the Rev 8. Basically, try to remove any possible complications. Try save in space and away from any outpost, and absolutely make sure you have a few backup saves. Always try to have a baseline save as well, and make sure you do those things we just mentioned before disabling any of your mods. Now moving on to new character preparation. So if you haven't touched Starfield and you're jumping in, Shattered Space being end game content, they're suggesting to be at least level 35. But honestly, I reckon you could get away with level 20. Difficulty scaling when it comes to missions predominantly is based on the player a lot of the time. So your player level. Then there's also the system level. So I imagine the Kavik system being about level 75. So you will find the creatures and points of interest could be quite challenging. However, the core mission should balance out to your character level, so there's a chance to get in there quite early. Now, a bit later, we'll go into the mods to access all this content at level 1 if you wanted to. Now, when it comes to creating your new character, when it comes to backgrounds, but these are my suggestions, starting off with Soldier for the starting perk of Ballistic and Boost Pack, Bounty Hunter to help with space combat and piloting, a little bit lower on the list, but I would consider possibly Cyber Runner if you're looking for a more stealth and also getting access to unlocking higher level chests and doors at a lower level. When it comes to the traits, Serpent's Embrace is probably the best pick. Most likely a lot more dialogue around all the content of Shattered Space, enhancing the narrative depth, and most importantly, boosting Andresia's romance opportunities, which will most likely be the best companion to take with you on Shattered Space. As Andresia has the Varun background, you'll also get the benefit of a boost to your health and oxygen, as long as you grav jumping to different moons and planets a bit more regularly. However, do note you will get lower health or oxygen if you're not doing regular ship travel, so just something to keep in mind, but the benefits completely outweigh the negatives. I'd also go for the Alien DNA, as this is going to increase your health and oxygen, which can kind of counteract the Serpent's Embrace. But do note, healing foods and items are less effective. But again, you can tweak your in-game settings to make that have less and less impact. For your third option, I would just select whichever one you have a preference for, but those are the two I would hone in on for creating a new game specifically for Shattered Space. Now, if you're aiming to get to level 20 or 35, here are some perks I would be honing in on. For the tech category, I would go your Boost Pack trading, improves your Boost Pack. Then there's piloting. Essentially, if you can get to rank 3, getting a Class B ship should cover a lot of the different bases and scenarios. However, not required, but a highly recommended suggestion. Then we have security. This one could be very potent, as this will allow you to unlock and get access to many of the locked doors that require this perk. These can result in getting far better weapons, more credits, accessing different content. So something to consider there. Then there's your shields on your ship. Then there's the shield system. But again, you can adjust the difficulty, so this is not so much required. Same again for the weapon systems. Since we can muck around with the difficulty, if you're trying to access Shattered Space early, we can just worry about these a little less. But these are some good ones to consider. Definitely get your targeting control systems to at least rank 1. It allows you to target ships. That provides a huge advantage early on. Another one that's good early on is astrodynamics, increasing your jump range, allowing you to get to some of the systems that are much further away. I'd also consider getting the ballistic and particle combat perks up. Both of these will increase the damage for those particular weapon types. Particle beams particularly could be a potent option because the Varun predominantly use particle beam weapons. This could be a great option. And seeing how there's new grenade types, it may be worthwhile upping your demolition to increase that damage. When it comes to social persuasion, highly effective skill to utilize because there's going to be so much infighting between the different factions. Having that option to persuade people could come in handy and make things easier. And of course, your combos perk, I would definitely consider ranking this up to make everything cost less throughout the whole experience. Also, leadership's a good one that will give you a nice boost to your companions. But those are just some of the ones to consider to focus on. The other perk I would consider for sure is your medicine. This will increase the potency of your med packs, trauma packs, emergency kits. These should have a very good impact on mitigating all the damage that you'll be taking. Some of these perks are definitely negated because we have the options to change so much in the settings now, but become absolute necessities with playing at a higher difficulty. As mentioned, I suggest working on your companion Andresia to take along with you for Shattered Space. Her with the Serpent background should be pretty interesting, open some more dialogue. That pretty much goes for every scenario as well, whether you're a new game or you're playing in an existing save. However, we don't know if there's going to be some new companion possibilities within Shattered Space, so something to consider as well. When it comes to your ship, it's a bit hard to guess, but in all the footage that we've seen, they've showed the Frontier landing on all the various Varun planets, so there's a good chance that this will be fine, just with some minor tweaks and upgrades. But if not, your best bet is just to land on some of the surrounding planets around Alpha Centauri. Try snag yourself one of the ships landing. If you've got your Class B license and piloting like we mentioned, you should be good to go. Upgrade your ship very quickly that way. Just some quick gear suggestions too. If you're new, I would be bringing plenty of digipicks, maybe at least 20, all the locked locations and all the various containers and chests. This is what will get you there. But also suggest lots of amp, increases your movement speed and lets you jump higher. Then all your usual healing items, things like trauma packs, your med pack, and your emergency kits. If you need to survive in difficult scenarios, alien genetic material, crazy amount of damage and energy resistant for 30 seconds. And then just make sure you have all the various items that heal your different infliction, like antibiotics, penicillin. Say if you're level 1 or you're really low level and you just want to get straight into Shattered Space, the mods I would suggest would be going into your creations, go in pack, keeping in mind that all Bethesda's official mods do not break your achievements. All other mods will break your achievements. But basically what we're looking for is mods like Startup Pack that will just give you insane amount of ammo, weapons, gear, so you can just grab all that. And since it's in the lodge, it should be, hopefully, as long as all the textures are right and no other too crazy changes have happened, you should be good for these kind of mods. At least that's what I'm thinking, but nothing's guaranteed. But these are sort of mods you can just download, put all this stuff on, and then you're pretty much ready. But I would take it one step further and just go for the completely overpowered weapon pack, which will just basically give you one hit insane weapons, which we've covered before. I'll try throw up some footage, but this is a beast of a mod. Then for your ship, if the system is quite far, you want to go framework. You want to type in framework, and hopefully the ship vendor framework is not broken. This mod by itself doesn't do anything, but pretty much all the ship mods will be dependent on the ship vendor framework. They will need it to work. So you'd grab the ship vendor first, and then I would either go the Starfield fleet expansion or the Arvarked shipyards. But Starfield fleet expansion might be the better option. I think this is where you can get them pretty cheap as well. And it just comes with so many ships. It's one of the best ship mods all condensed into one. And then with those mods, you can pretty much conquer any challenge. You'll be overpowered. And this is just for those who just want to get straight into Shattered Space. Don't want to worry about too much of anything else. Just get into the story. A few quick things to note. When you go into creations, you're going to see Shattered Space everywhere. But do note, you won't actually purchase Shattered Space from creations. You will be purchasing it from the Steam store or the Xbox store. This is more just a visual indication placeholder, so you will be purchasing it separately outside of creations. However, you will need to activate it once you've installed it. It will be similar to a mod. You will need to go into your load order and make sure it's at the very top of your load order. It should be placed there by default, but just check in case. Just touching on the prices. If you purchase the premium edition of Starfield, Shattered Space is included, and just noting the various pricing shown on your screen. When it comes to Game Pass, whether you have the standard edition or the Xbox Game Pass, Shattered Space DLC works as a standalone purchase. So what this will mean is that users who have the standard edition of Starfield or play it through Game Pass must purchase the DLC separately at roughly these prices in order to access the additional content. However, Game Pass subscribers will typically get a small discount. Now for new players or for new characters, if you want to kick off Shattered Space, you'll be able to do this once you get to the lodge for the very first time. As a part of the mission called One Small Step, enter the library. This will be your first time meeting and greeting the Constellation team. After engaging the dialogue, you will simply need to exit the lodge, open to your star map, and simply jump to any system in hope that you don't run into any other ships or spawns, whether it be a mission related or just another ship. And here is where we will get a distress signal, and that is going to launch you into Shattered Space. For existing players, the exact same steps apply, except for you don't need to go to the lodge or anything. You've already completed that, so you just need to jump to any system that doesn't have anything related to a mission or any spawned encounters. So if it doesn't work the first time, just jump around, it will trigger. But with mods being available, it opens the doors to really experience Starfield however you want. But it is overall hard to really hone in and give you the best advice. Let me know in the comments what you think the best steps are or best preparation is for these sort of situations.